Yo, how's it going? Entropy here today with another video. Today we're going to be talking about current top 5 cross rides, in my opinion, that I feel like will be relevant and will still have meaningful impact into the future. And so I define current as in, the base set, set 1 to set 4. So that's where the end and PBO comes out. And then set 5 to set 8 as well. So that's all the way up to the end of the Asia Circuit era. So I guess for global players like myself, this is still looking into the future. But for JP players, they're way ahead of us. So let's see how valuable these cross rides will be right now, as well as moving into the end of the Asia Circuit era, as well as later on into post set 9 meta. So for this top 5 list, I will start from the weakest of the 5 and then move along to 5. If you are up to date with all the cross rides, you will know that there are actually cards. A card that I've left out, and cross ride is specifically defined as a card that requires another card in order to get plus 2,000 on the Vanguard circle. So MLB does not count. MLB does not count because it actually has a different requirement. But anyways, without further ado, let's begin. The first card on my list, unfortunately, number 5 will be Phantom Blaster Overlord. PBO skill is Cross Ride on Phantom Blaster Dragon. When this attacks a Vanguard, Persona Blaster get plus 10,000 plus critical plus 1 until end of turn, and the Counter Blast to retire rearguard to retire one of your opponent's rearguards. So if you're familiar with the TCG, the third skill, the Counter Blast 2 skill, is actually already a new skill added to PBO, and the Persona Blast actually used to cost Counter Blast 3 as well. So Phantom Blaster Overlord got a huge rework, definitely a lot more valuable and valuable in the Zero game. In addition, it also has great support cards like the main that also got buffed in terms of stats, and also the ride chain. There are a lot of good cards in the clan that does help out PBO, but the reason why it's 5th is because it's the deck doesn't really benefit too much riding onto PBO, and it's mostly a defensive play rather than an offensive play. The Persona Blast, as more experienced players have encountered, is that it's a rare cost. It's difficult to pull off, and the plus 10 plus 1 crit, especially with the way PGs work in this game, definitely is not as impactful as it should be. Counter Blast 2 to trade 1 for 1, definitely good to get rid of intercepts or boosters, so your opponent can't hit 13k numbers. But it's essentially a 1 for 1 trade with Counter Blast 2. Is it a good card? Definitely. It's definitely a good card. But comparatively speaking with other cross rides, I wouldn't say so. And that's as a Shadow Paladin fanboy. Unfortunately, moving forward into the future sets, it does lose out in terms of its firepower, explosiveness, and as Shadow players, we have other cards to look forward to. So let's not worry about it too much. But anyways, it is unfortunately not as amazing as I hoped it to be. Next is Blue Storm Supreme Dragon Glory Maelstrom. Now, this is going to be a cross ride for a card that hasn't even stepped foot into global yet. Maelstrom, I kind of talked about this in the reverse video, and Glory Maelstrom is supposedly a tier 2 deck, bottom of tier 1, top of tier 2 in the JP server as of set 8. And you might be surprised saying like, oh, Entropy, like, is it, you probably don't have experience dealing with this card or playing with this card. How can you rank it this low? Again, all the cross rides are great. Not even just the base, plus 2, right? Like, it's just their skills are pretty amazing for card quality standards, right? But comparatively speaking, it is less synergy. It provides less synergy for the clan than you would want. Anyways, the skill is Limb Break 5. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, Counter Blast 2, and until end of battle, this gets plus 5 plus 1 crit. And then your opponent chooses a grade 3 at random from their hand to discard in order to activate the Sentinel. If they do not or can't fulfill the requirement, it does not activate. In addition, compared to its paper version, it does get a buff in terms of an activating the ultimate break earlier if it's in cross ride mode. So that's definitely a good thing. And the reason why I ranked it 4th is because Counterblast 2 is definitely not a cheap cost for Aquaforce. You have cards like Ezel and Diamantes. These cards got additional skills which cost Counterblast in order to go through intercepts. And you definitely do need these skills, this cost, in order to make these 4th attack skills activate properly, especially when you are on your first ride, Maelstrom. In addition, forcing your opponent to discard a grade 3 randomly, it sounds great on paper having an additional cost to activate Sentinels, but first things first is sometimes you could be helping your opponent by helping them hit 5 damage, and then letting them activate their limit break or ultimate break. Secondly, having a grade 3 in hand isn't as detrimental as one thinks, because the grade 3 doesn't have any intercept or taunt value, and most decks already have enough fuel and power to cycle through their cards and push out intercepts as soon as possible in that metagame. For example, Ezel, I feel like global players can relate to this really well. Ezel can just spawn out grade 2s like it's nothing, and then the grade 3s, generally if you're playing Gold Paladin, sometimes they just clog, and then the Glory Maelstrom cost isn't really a cost. In addition, Maelstrom itself is already such a strong card, just on attack, retire, draw, that it does supplement Glory Maelstrom, but sometimes you would rather stay on Maelstrom than go on Glory Maelstrom. And I do see a lot of decklists, favor the Maelstrom playstyle over, specifically favoring the Glory Maelstrom playstyle. And it's not as impactful or important in the deck as one would imagine. Next on the list is Dragonic Overlord The End. I guess the end is never ending, and this is the end for you. Its skill is really simple. Cross-ride Dragonic Overlord, +2. When this attack hits, Counterblast 2, Persona Blast to stand it and draw 2 cards. This card is still solid. It's definitely still solid. It doesn't act as a finisher as it should sound like. It just gives you the card advantage that you really need to sustain your Kagero plays, provide the pressure and everything. With Kagero, you have access to Conroe. Definitely one of the best starters in the game in terms of TCG and in Zero. You can search out for Airmos for the hand drop and draw. You can search for PGs, and we all know how valuable PGs are in this game. You can search for AKs, you can search for whatever you want, early, mid, or late game, especially with the removal of nerf of Tejas and cards like that. Even getting rid of these starters are getting more difficult. So the value of Conroe actually went up at this point in global. Yes, Kagero does lack in terms of pressure because there aren't a lot of crit activating abilities compared to the other clans, like the ones just now. PBO has an extra crit, PBD in the same clan has an extra crit, and in Aquaforce, Glory Maelstrom gets an extra crit. Dragonic Overlord doesn't get that, but if you're playing Kagero, it's a stable deck. It gives pressure, and you just win through driving card advantage and beating your opponent in terms of trades and everything. And also in terms of the future, I forgot to mention this, but Shadow Paladins, they're playing Revengers. The viability of PBO, PBD is lower. In terms of Aquaforce, I do think that Glory Maelstrom can have a place, but I believe Maelstrom should be more valuable, and you're probably gonna main the reverse version instead. And then for Kagero, Dragonic Overlord The End is still a must play. In terms of the break ride. Remember we talked about Dauntless Drive Dragon. You can still play it with the Dragonic Overlord break ride. So there's a lot more synergy with future support, as well as Dragonic Burnout. I believe the grade 2 9k that retires one by soul blasting one card and then returning an Overlord from the drop zone to the bottom of the deck. It's just great support for Overlord as a clan, and the end will never end, for the near future at least. Next, top 2 is Dungaree Unlimited. Dungaree Unlimited is actually a really surprising pick. I'm sure players from JP can agree. Or players who had experience with the TCG can agree. Dungaree was a really underwhelming card in the paper format. The bind mechanic wasn't that special, and overall it just didn't do as much as its counterparts, right? Vermilion's such a great card, and then we moved on to Eradicators when Dungaree Unlimited came out. It just didn't do anything, particularly fun or particularly splashy that made people want to test Dungaree out. But in this game, its skill definitely got a rework. Dungaree definitely had, good support, and its release got pulled earlier into set 8, right? So let's look into the skill. Its skill is Limit Break 4, once per turn, Counterblast 2, bind the top card face up, and then retire one of your opponent's front row. And then if your bind zone has 3 or more, it gets +1 crit until end of turn. And then during your turn, if this unit gets +2 for each card in your bind zone. And then Crossride. This card's great because, well, crit pressure is always great, as we talked about PBO, Maelstrom, now Dungaree. Crit pressure just wins games. You can proc your opponent's PGs. You can damage deny for now. Assuming your opponent isn't using the subclan PG, as we talked about in the PG update. So that's great. Retiring your opponent's front row, same as original sealed Demon Dragon Dungaree. Getting rid of front row is important, especially in Zero, because that's getting rid of your opponent's guarding option, and then it makes the extra crit more effective. But unfortunately, the cost of Counterblast 2 does hinder it. Original Dungaree already needed Counterblast 1, and then this needs Counterblast 2. Other great cards in Narukami, like Vermilion, causes Counterblast 2. So you definitely do need to do some Counterblast management. With that said, the Dungaree starter Dandan, I believe is the name. It does significantly support it. Whenever you ride a Dungaree, you get to bind an extra card, and then it lets you swap out your bind zone with your hand, I believe. So you get to choose what to put back, what to get back, and then play with. So it's an extra resource you can play with, something that was untapped with, and with how Zero is structured with the value of intercepts and front row rearguards, Dungaree's value is definitely unlimited. All right, last one. There are 2 cross-rides left before set 9. So there is Vermilion the Blood, and then Platina Ezel. And as you may have guessed, unfortunately, the winner goes to Blazing Lion Platina Ezel. And we'll talk about why the Blood isn't on the list later. But anyways, let's just talk about Platina Ezel first. Platina Ezel's skill is Limit Break 5, once per turn. Counterblast 1 to have all your rearguards get +5. This unit gets critical +1 until the end of turn. It gets Crossride with Blonde Ezel. And then, of course, it also gets the Ultimate Break Crossride skill, where if this unit is in Crossride, then its Limit Break 4 becomes Limit Break... Limit Break 5 becomes Limit Break 4. Excuse me. And, this card is just good. Like, Blonde Ezel helps you fill up the board. We all know how annoying it is. It's going to get the Blaster Blade and Blaster Dark Spirit support, which helps you retire your opponent's front row, which we just explained with Dungaree, how important that is. Synergizing that with Platina Ezel, you fill up your board, Counterblast 1 instead of Counterblast 3 now. You have all your rearguards +5, which helps you hit the stages when you can hit face. So you can deal multiple damage in one turn stably, consistently, and then Platina Ezel also gets 1 crit, so you could, either finish the game or do damage denial strategies as well. Just talking about the card itself, Platina Ezel, the cheap cost of Counterblast 1, especially with the Ultimate Break Crossride buff, makes it so much more valuable and so much more valuable in Zero than it ever was in the TCG. And talking about buffs, Ezel, Blonde Ezel itself got a buff itself as well, from a 10k to an 11k, from Counterblast 2 to Counterblast 1, from check top 1 card to check top 4. Like, it makes the Blaster Spirits just so much more consistent. The deck overall synergy is insane, and definitely should see play even into the set 9 and further support. Of course, it does have less energy with the break rides and stuff, and so but you could definitely still test it out. You know, the extra power does come in handy, and you know, even as of right now, I believe it is still a very meta viable deck. So let's just talk about the Blood real quick. The Blood is a great card. It does have the crit pressure that we discussed, is highly valuable. But the Counterblast 2, the Counterblast 3 cost, Counterblast 3 cost, you know, it did not get the buff that Vermilion deserved. Vermilion got Counterblast 2 instead of Counterblast 3. The Blood still has Counterblast 3. Getting that extra 5,000 power instead of extra 3,000 power doesn't really make a difference. And also, since you're attacking the front row anyways, the extra crit doesn't really apply to the rear guards. Like, you don't kill an extra rear guard or anything. So, you know, like, overall it just doesn't work as well as it sounds on paper. And unfortunately, you know, with Dungaree Unlimited being so much more consistent, I'd say, and viable in terms of cost, you know, the Blood doesn't really have a spot as of right now. Will it have a spot in the future? Not exactly as well. You know, with the Eradicator support and the Break Rides even, Break Rides don't really work well with the Blood or Vermilion. You know, on Break Ride, you get to retire one of your opponent's front row. I think is Vowing Sword Dragon, Eradicator Vowing Sword Dragon. That's the first triple rare Break Ride that they have. And since you're retiring one of your opponent's front row already, you know, the attack all of your opponent's front row, you know, suddenly just went from attacking 3 to attacking 2. So, you know, the cost is, it's overcosted, I think is the main problem. You know, even with Dungaree, right? Dungaree is more valuable in the long term as well, because, well, on Breaker you retire one thing, well, Dungaree can retire the other, and you have 3 attacks to your opponent's Vanguard. In addition to the crit pressure, if it is the Cross-Ride Unlimited version. So I hope this little you know, perspective, I guess, hopefully you know, see value in this perspective. Definitely there are a lot of support cards that I did not, you know, show on the slides, but JP players, let me know if, you know, if anything really changed with the upcoming set that came out. Tell me if I had anything, you know, incorrect, because of course I'm not a JP player. I don't have experience on the JP server. All I have is, you know, watching people play, you know, different fight, having some thoughts, looking into some articles, as well as just, you know, theory testing. But overall, you know, what can I say? Cross rides are great, right? The offensively and defensively, the 13k base really makes a difference. Having retire skills in some of these clans like Shadows and Kagero definitely deters your opponent from being even able to hit these 13k numbers, not even 18k, right? Forcing your opponent to play, you know, builds with vanillas like 8ks and 10ks just in order to optimize their attacks to beat 13k Vanguards in both the TCG and in the Zero format definitely does change up the game. But anyways, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know down below. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We are so close to 100 subscribers. That's, you know, honestly a really big thing for me. You know, I hope you check out my other videos. I will be doing a top 5 future break rides to look forward to. So be sure to like this video and tell me, you know, give me some ideas. You know, like what? Oh, sorry, I meant cross rides. Yeah, tell me what cross rides you're looking forward to yourself. And I'm excluding reverses on this list because I did talk about reverse units. And generally speaking, they are cross rides. I mean, the ones I talked about were. But I guess that's it for today's video. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.